Hello, I'm Senator Dick Durbin. Welcome to my Capitol Report, A Different View. Our nation's capital is one of the most beautiful cities on earth, and when it comes to cherry blossom time each spring, it is even more beautiful. How did this all get started? This wonderful array of cherry blossom trees that really become a magnet for families and visitors from all over the world to come and see this beautiful sight. It started 100 years ago. This year we'll be celebrating the 100th anniversary of a gift from the mayor of the city of Tokyo, Japan, of about 3,000 cherry blossom trees to America. Shortly after these trees were planted, people in Washington started coming down here because they knew when the blossoms arrived, spring couldn't be far behind. And then it grew from a few people to more, from a few days of festival to even longer festivals, involving more and more states all across the nation, more and more people from all around the world. There's a woman who's in charge of this. She has the responsibility of the director of the National Cherry Blossom Festival. Her name is Susan Norton. Susan, good to see you today.
Good to see you, Senator.
So tell me how you got involved with this festival.
Well, I just retired from National Geographic, and I thought years ago that National Geographic should be part of the festival each year. I was the director of the museum, so I looked for Japanese-themed exhibits to have during the festival, and that's how it all started.
It's a wonderful story about the Japanese gift of 3,000 plus trees to start with, but it didn't stop there. Over the years, there's been a real history to this festival and this gift. As I read about it, we reciprocated by sending a gift back to the Japanese shortly after they sent the cherry blossom trees.
Yes, we sent them dogwood trees, and being a native Virginian and that being our state flower and tree, I'm quite honored that that is what we gave back to Japan. But since the tragedies there last March, we've actually helped fund cherry blossom trees being planted in some of the towns that were decimated by the earthquake last year.
I might just add parenthetically, Quincy, Illinois has its annual Dogwood Festival, so dogwood travels across our nation.
Indeed.
But this reciprocity between Japan and the United States goes even deeper. At a time they sent more trees over here, if I'm not mistaken, with Lady Bird Johnson adding another 1,000 trees or so. But after the war, the festival was suspended for obvious reasons, but after the war, they called on us to help replenish their stock of cherry blossom trees. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, obviously there have been times when natural resources such as trees have been damaged or destroyed, and so they did come to us and say, can you help us? You have, some of the originals from 1912. Can you give some of those back to us? And so some specimens were given back to Japan.
Now the trees go way beyond the tidal basin.
Yes.
They're all over town. And I guess that was by design so that most of Washington, D.C. can at least see some part of the Cherry Blossom Festival.
Well, not only was it by design, but also sometimes they grew too close together. So for instance, we moved some to Fort McNair, which is just down the river, and they're in Kenwood, Maryland. All over town, there have been trees over the years, but each year we do tree plantings in every ward of the city, and now we're expanding it to the region because we know that it's wonderful for people to come to the tidal basin, but it's also great to enjoy it in other parts of the Washington area.
Are any of the original trees still around?
They are, and believe it or not, the chief horticulturist for the Park Service tells us that the lifespan of the Yoshinos, which are these kind of cherry blossom trees, is about 50 years. So the fact that a handful of the originals are 100 years old, they're a bit gnarly, you can tell they've got some age on them, but they're still producing beautiful blossoms every year, and so the Park Service monitors them very closely.
As I was driving up here, there's so many families out with little kids strolling around the tidal basin with cameras in hand. They've been running across the set back and forth. It's a big family celebration.
Yeah.
So tell me other aspects of the festival that visitors should be part of.
Well, as you mentioned, the festival is longer. So this being the Centennial, we went from 2 weeks to 5 weeks. It just started this week, the first day of spring. It goes all the way to April 27th, Arbor Day, because we're working with the Arbor Day Foundation to plant trees all over the country. There are free performances at the Jefferson Memorial, jazz at the Jefferson for 16 days. At the Sylvan Theater, which is at the base of the Washington Monument, we have performances for 2.5 weeks. weeks at the Wilson Plaza in downtown DC. We have the parade on April 14th, which is always a crowd pleaser. We love to see families there. We have activities for 5 weeks, and most of them are free. So there are things for people to do all over the region, and we certainly hope that people will continue to come and enjoy this. We usually get about 1 million people in 2 weeks, so we're very optimistic about what our numbers might be this year with this glorious weather we're having.
There's always a debate about when these trees are going to blossom. And this year, the speculation was it was early.
Yes.
So tell me, has it changed over the years when the cherry blossoms or trees do blossom?
Yes, and it depends, of course, on the weather that has happened prior to that. They are earlier this year. Normally, they have a cycle, and they pretty much stick to that. So late March, early April is usually the peak of the peak, and the peak of the peak is when 70% of the blooms are out. But this year, because we had the crazy warm temperatures, it did force the blooms a bit early.
And how long do they last?
They can last a week to 2 weeks, but that's if Mother Nature doesn't step in with a big wind or a big thunderstorm or something like that. So we're hopeful. We need some rain, but we hope not too hard.
So I have to ask, lots of cherry blossoms. Any cherries?
No, these are not trees that bear fruit.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the blossoms are their fruit.
Somebody's advertising Washington cherry blossom pie.
No, we have cherry flavored cuisine, but not from the trees.
That's great. So you've told me a lot about all the things that happen. What's your favorite part?
I think my favorite part is Cherry Blast, which is a big dance party that we started a couple of years ago because we wanted to engage a different audience. It's from 9 at night till 1 or 2 in the morning, and it's just a great event to bring a younger audience in. And I really love it because I can bring my nieces and nephews, and they see the festival in a whole different light.
Susan Norton, thank you for this festival and this wonderful time of celebration in Washington.
Well, thank you.